Currently, when we run our code, you can see that while we can input our answer, our code doesn't actually really care because it's not checking to see if it's right or wrong. In this lesson, we're going to add one more method to our QuizBrain, and that's the ability to check the answer that the user inputted and see if it was correct. And that means we need to keep track of the user's score. So we'll add another attribute, score, which has a default value of 0 to begin with, and it'll increase every time they get a question right. So in this lesson, we're going to create a new method called checkAnswer. And this checkAnswer function is going to be used to see if the user's answer, which comes from this input, is the same as the actual answer to the current question. What we need to do is we need to save this user's input inside a variable, which we'll call userAnswer. And then I'm going to call our checkAnswer method, and I want to pass over the user answer. Now, in addition, I also want to pass over the correct answer. And the correct answer is going to be the current question dot answer. So let's replace that with current question dot answer, because we know that current question is a question object, which has a text attribute and an answer attribute. And once we've passed over the user's answer and the correct answer, then we can receive it inside our checkAnswer function as a parameter. So we'll call this userAnswer, and the second one we'll call the correct answer. So now this input is going to be passed over here, and the correct answer is going to be under this variable name. So now we can see if the user answer is equal to the correct answer. And just for safety's sake, it's usually a good idea to drop both sides to a lowercase so they're comparable. This way, just in case the user answers true or true, it will be treated exactly the same. If the user answer matches the correct answer, well then this means that they got it right. So let's print it. But on the other hand, if that was false, then that means they got it wrong. So let's tell them that's wrong. Now, it might also be a good idea to tell the user what the actual correct answer was. Now, you have a choice depending on where you want to put that. So you can either choose to only show them the correct answer if they got it wrong, like this. But I think it's actually a good idea to show them the correct answer even if they got it right. So I'm going to change the indentation so that it's actually outside of the if-else block. And it's just simply going to happen once the if-else block is complete. Now, the next thing to do is to keep track of the user's score so that every time they get a question right, then it should increase the score by 1. Pause the video and add a new attribute called score to the QuizBrain class and increment it by 1 every time the user gets it right. Now, what you're aiming for is to be able to print out the score and the current question so that you can tell the user your current score is and print it out after every single question. Pause the video now and complete this challenge. All right, so let's go ahead and create our new score attribute, which is again going to have a default starting value of 0. And then whenever the user gets a question right, then we're going to increase their score by 1. So we'll tap into that score attribute and then increase it by 1. Now we've got our score being tracked, then we want to be able to print out what the user's current score is. So at the end of checkAnswer, let's create another print statement which gives the user their score. So your current score is, and then we'll insert the self.score, and we'll also tell them out of a possible number of questions. So we can insert the self.question number. So this means that they've completed 5 questions so far, where they've had 5 chances to get things right. Then we can show them that they got however many right out of those 5. So maybe they got 3 out of 5 right, or maybe they got 5 out of 5 right. And now if we run our code, we can see that print statement in action. So it tells me that I got it right, and then the correct answer was true, and that my current score is 1 out of 1. Now, if I get one of these wrong, then you can see that my current score is now 3 out of a possible 4. And it tells the user that they've missed out on 1 point. It'd be nice to add a little bit of space in between each of the questions. I want to be able to see all the questions that I've done so far, so I don't want to clear the screen, but I want to be able to add a new line here. So at the end of my print statement, I'm going to add a print, which is just going to print a new line, so that in between each question, I have a little bit of space to tell each question apart from the other. The final thing I need to do is to tell the user their final score once the entire quiz is finished. And we want to be able to print something like, you've completed the quiz. And then we'll print out something like, your final score was, and then we'll give them their final score. So maybe they got 10 out of 12, correct? And this way they can see what their final outcome was. So have a think about how you might be able to print these 2 lines here, and how you can get hold of the question number and the user's score to print inside our main.py. So pause the video and complete this challenge. All right, so the first line is very easy to print. All we need to do is wrap a print statement around it. The second line is a little bit more tricky because we'll need to have an f string. So we want this second value to be the total number of questions in the question bank. Or it could be the current question number that the user is on. You can do either. You can either say question bank and wrap a length function around it, like this, which will give you the total number of questions, because we're at the end of the quiz now. Alternatively, you can also tap into the quiz object and get the question number when the quiz ended. And similarly with the score, you can say quiz.score. So now, once the quiz has completed, you can see our print statements. You've completed the quiz and your final score was 0 out of 12, because I was just button mashing and I didn't get any questions right.